Good morning.
Good morning, Henry.
How are you all?
Doing fine, thanks. Just fine. There's a beautiful background behind it now.
Oh,
Magic.
Fisk. Yes, Fisk Pond.
Puffers? Oh, Fisk.
Yes,
Of course.
Fisk Pond. I can't wait to dive into it.
There you go. I remember that.
Well, a little ways, a little time before we can dive into it.
Yeah. That's a nice view.
And I can be swimming along and hear wafting along the airwaves this beautiful flute. Henry likes going there and playing flute from the beach.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I like the echo. The echo is tremendous.
Oh, really? I hadn't thought of that.
Because the sound travels across the water and the trees just.
Oh, wow. I'll have to stand beside you sometime and listen to that. Because when I saw you, I was on the other side swimming, and I saw, yeah.
Where is Fisk Pond?
It's you know where West Street is in Wendell?
Yes.
Oh, it's like right after you turn left on West Street. The parking lot is right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you go through around Lake Wyola.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that road around the perimeter there, and then there's a intersection.
Yep.
You turn left.
The west.
Yes, and immediately the next left.
Okay.
And left again. You're there.
Good to know.
Yeah. There was an attempt by a couple of friends of mine. It was before I knew that they had done it, but they had purchased the land, and it had been a dump site for many, many years. And they were trying to create like a healing community, almost like Temenos, I think. And I don't know, they did do a lot of cleanup. They did the cleanup, but then they just kind of didn't get to the point of agreeing on how to do the healing center. And then they turned it over as like a conservation space to the town. So it's the town swim area. So it's officially kind of Wendell's
beach.
Yeah, it's very nice. So anyway,
Well,
here we all are.
Good morning.
Here's Janice. Janice, have you heard yet?
Miriam. Yeah.
Who are we missing?
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
I know Janice has to leave, so we might want to just start the meeting rather than waiting, Henry.
All right.
Janice, are you able to take notes at least for the time you're here? She's on mute.
Yes.
You're on mute, Janice.
It's a mute point.
Hey, Janice.
Janice.
She stepped away from the computer.
Yeah. All right. Hello.
No, I'm here. My microphone wasn't plugged in. And I can stay a little longer. I can stay till 10:30.
Okay. I don't think we need to say that.
No.
Yeah, hopefully not.
I'm hoping to keep this to an hour.
Yeah, okay.
If that.
And Henry, I don't know if you want to give me screen sharing privileges in case, since I've got the reports pulled up, if we need to look at them.
Sure. Well, let's see here.
So I'm official.
Oh, congratulations.
Okay, great.
That's great. Thank you for doing all that.
Yes, I will. Signed and studied and passed and everything.
Okay,
so.
that's great.
Okay, you're on co-host.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Isn't it somewhere down near south of Boston, co-host?
Right. Right.
I do like that cover, Greg. Very nice.
Yeah, it's really great.
Lovely.
Really great.
The cover.
Oh, right, yes. Simple enough, yeah. And we could do a version for the other document.
I think that'd be great. I think that'd be great. Greg also mentioned maybe at some point trying to create a logo for the historical commission.
Oh,
Yes, if anyone would like to do some input on that, they're welcome.
that'd be great.
Miriam and I was thinking maybe trying to avoid the look of European or pre-Columbian
Mm.
designs. It's difficult, but
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
a little design choice.
Maybe a graphic of a stone wall.
Yeah.
That kind of captures everything, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It could be a
that's true.
stone wall.
Well,
or
however, colonials are the ones probably who built all the stone walls.
We don't know
No.
that.
No, actually, there were stone rows as well.
We don't know that.
I think in the logo it would be impossible to tell whether it's a stone wall, a
Yeah.
stone row, a ceremonial structure, blah blah blah. I think that's a great idea.
I'll talk to you later.
So there you go. If you can figure out how to do that,
Right.
something
Trees
interesting.
and ducks and moose and deer and everything that makes up
And those-
Shutesbury.
It's going to be the world's largest logo.
No, I like something that has to do with stones because
Hmm.
that is both sides of the
Yeah.
divide.
Yeah, big part of the colonial history as well.
So, hi Henry, you're back with us.
Yeah.
So on the agenda for today, we've got two things to go over: the reports, and also because it's linked to the second report, to go over an archaeology policy if we can. Because in the report on the solar bylaw, I mentioned getting access to our archaeological records so that we can, so we have them. And so that there's a process that Lise McLaughlin has kind of shared with me about how to do that, but we have to approve we have to approve a security policy. The archaeology policy is not necessary, but I think would be a good idea.
Okay.
But maybe we can talk about that after we go over the reports. Do we need to bring up the reports, or people feel like they have?
I've got mine on screen.
Okay.
I have mine as well.
So why don't we talk about, let's do it sequentially. Let's start with the intro. I'm not going to pull it up unless.
What's the
Well, just,
full
I
name?
can put it on screen, but just
No,
tell me
no, I
which
can
one
put,
did you?
no, I think I should, if we're going to share it, I think I should have it up,
Okay.
because I'm
Okay,
going to be answering questions about it, but
Sure.
I'll put it up.
Changes.
Okay, advanced. Okay, so I want,
Is this indigenous or is
Yeah.
it the solar?
I think it's this one.
Okay.
Of course, I can't see it now. Okay. All right, so maybe minimize you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
So any questions, comments, feedback?
Well, the part that you said about that you weren't sure if it should be in this document or the other, I think I said to you in an email this morning, could it be a note in both? It seems to be both.
Yeah, so
The
This
small
was the-
piece of text is the more about traditional cultural properties.
right. So just the backstory of why I wrote this section, in case you guys haven't read it, is to describe a little bit more in detail what is a traditional cultural property and a landscape, traditional cultural landscape, right, which is
Mhm.
right here. And then I discuss a little bit a traditional cultural landscape that is on the National Register, which was established with the Wampanoag tribe of Gayhetequina,
Mhm.
which I thought was important because these are Massachusetts tribes, and the sound, Nantucket Sound, is part of Massachusetts.
Mhm.
So just to give people a sense that a landscape can be in the water. And then a little bit about doing your homework when engaging with indigenous tribes and understanding some of the cultural concerns about the privacy of cultural knowledge and even possibly this would be a segue to why a tribe might want to keep something private, the location or some of the data private. And I didn't want to go too much in depth around that because I think sometimes people just get overwhelmed by this and go, well, what will work? How can we possibly talk about things we can't even identify? And they throw up their hands. And I didn't want to, for the people on town boards reading this, I didn't want to kind of make it seem impossible because I don't think it is impossible. So I kind of kept it brief. So the question is, I feel like in some ways, maybe this belongs more in the bylaw discussion rather than the intro. If we put it in an appendix, the problem with an appendix is, most people are not going to look at the appendices unless they're really, really interested.
Right.
And I don't know that it has to go in an appendix. It's not very long. It's just a few paragraphs, but it's really kind of where does it belong? Which report do you think it belongs in?
Yeah.
Well, it is part of the introduction to Indigenous culture and artifacts in our area.
So maybe it belongs here because it's kind of giving, again, talking about avoiding ethnocentrism is kind of understanding different cultures have different ways of doing things, different ways of thinking about things.
Yeah, I don't think it can do any harm being in the
Okay.
intro. Does anyone disagree?
No.
It-
Yeah, what about having it in both? Since
mm,
it's short enough. Where would you
Okay.
put it though? Where would you put it in the other one though?
I'd have to pull up that report and look. I
Yeah.
probably would put it around the discussion about the National Register and the National Historic Preservation Act.
I don't know. I guess I would tend to keep it in the Indigenous report. If we're trying to make the bylaw one be more specific to the solar project
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I
That makes a
think,
lot of sense.
just to not to overwhelm people on the solar bylaw one,
Right.
knowing that there's a whole nother, document that they can read or pick through as they
Right.
choose.
And I was trying with the bylaw paper not to make it about Indigenous stuff, but to make it about historical, broadly defined, both
Mhm.
Indigenous and colonial settler
Yeah.
issues. So because the bylaw doesn't really distinguish between the two. And so, and as our mission, we're really should be concerned about both. So
Yeah. What about putting it as part of an appendix on the second report? A reference. So it's somebody's reading the solar bylaw. If they have an issue, they don't have to go to the other report necessarily.
okay,
Refer to the appendix. It's
what do you think? about that?
definition. It's a definition.
It's a definition, and I do have
yeah.
well, there is an appendix that has definitions,
mm.
and I do define traditional cultural properties
Okay.
in the appendix of both of them. So if somebody says, what is that thing? They can go to the appendix, not
Yeah.
And so in the bylaw, I'm just trying to understand. So if you have that in the appendix, is it kind of a synopsis of this? Would you say in the bylaw?
Well, I'm going to scroll down because it's actually, I can click to it faster. It's the same definitions for both. And let me just go. So you go to definitions, ceremonial stone landscapes,
Okay, great.
cultural resources, and let's see, NAPA,
okay.
Oh, yeah.
traditional cultural properties. There's a little paragraph here. Identification. So again, talking about Indigenous people and traditional communities are the ones that have the authority to identify what is a traditional cultural property. So I do talk about this. What is a traditional community? And that's the end of that one.
Well, if that's there, is there any reason to put C intro at the beginning of document, where you have that in the appendix, or just not worry about that? It's there.
It's there.
It's there. Okay,
It's
cool.
there.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just keep this where it is in this report.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I liked the article that it was based on. One of the reports it was based on talked a little bit about understanding Indigenous time and sense of time, and that, you know, that needs to be a part of the kind of the expectation if you're consulting with a tribe, is
Huh.
recognizing that they have different ways of thinking about communication and thinking about time,
Hmm.
and also about ownership. Um,
Can you send that article around to us? Because I'd like to read that so that I'm a little better
well,
attuned on this sort of
it's
thing.
linked here. If you look at the
Oh,
footnotes,
okay.
it's cited. So here, look at this.
Oh, okay, Ball. Okay.
Yeah, look at this reference.
Okay.
The other thing I changed from some previous drafts was I was reading it again. It was in this, I think, this article, or maybe another one, about tribes objecting to non-Indigenous people using language like being stewards of the land, things like that. Because it's kind of patronizing, and it sort of has this sort of sense of being territorial, owning or having control over land. And so I changed that. I took the word steward out.
Okay.
I think I said being protectors of the land.
And because why not have steward in?
Because there was, and I wish I can't pull it up right now, but the article was talking about it being patronizing and somewhat patriarchal. It has a kind of a top down, we're in
Got it.
control sort of
Got it.
connotation.
Yeah.
Like it's ours now.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. That's a good insight.
I know, that's what I was thinking. It'd be good for me to read this so I understand better that sort of stuff too.
So anyway, what are you guys thinking about this intro?
It's quite a heck of an intro.
Yes, it is. I'm just going to go to the table of contents because that lets us kind of look at what it covers. You know, again, there's like so much to cover. There's so much material.
I thought it was great. I think it's amazing, Miriam, and I've learned so much just reading through this, the multiple copies.
Thank you.
Really, I can't imagine how you managed to put this all together and have it very readable. It's long, but it's very readable, you know, so.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Well, I having all the people who helped editing was really, really helpful. I mean, Janice, you gave, because once you get into something, you just sort of lose your objectivity and everything looks, you can't see the typos, you can't see where something isn't clear.
Yeah.
But you were really helpful, and Lise was extremely helpful. She put so much time into this, really. And then Henry also was really put a lot of time into
Wonderful.
it. And what was also really helpful was Michael DeCara went through it and gave me some feedback about, how this could be helpful to town boards. And he gave me some suggestions about reorganizing things. So
good.
he actually said of the other report, the one about the bylaw, that he felt like that could be something that could be useful on a state level.
Huh.
And I'm actually thinking, we've had some meetings with Joe Comerford's office, the planning board, and Henry and I, and Janice, you were there too, weren't you? For the Joe Comerford meeting? No,
I don't
you weren't
think I
there.
was. No,
You weren't there. It was just Henry and I, and I had a meeting with Lise and Lise and myself with Joe Comerford. And I'm thinking of, once we have this packaged up, of sharing it with her office.
yeah.
Because she's very interested in Indigenous issues.
So Itzel has her hand up, is that right?
Yeah, the only reason I cannot find this full report, I only find the highlighted traditional cultural properties. It's
a link. Azelle, you have to click on the link because
It was too big.
It's attached from Google Drive because it's too big.
Okay, so you sent it when? A couple of days ago or
Yeah,
when?
and I sent it again to you yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still going back and forth between the two emails. If possible, if it could get eventually put into the my historical
right.
email.
You have your new
That'd be
email.
great.
Yeah.
You
I
may
think-
have done that. Yeah, I seem to be getting, it's okay for now. It's all kind of new to me too. Thank
So,
you.
and to sort of like going over land use patterns, you know, again, it like impossible to do justice to all of it.
Mhm.
But one of the things that I kind of wanted to focus on was the deeds,
Mhm. That was fascinating.
because I think that there is a tendency for people to think, oh, we can't really even talk about Indigenous rights when it comes to Shutesbury because we don't know who those people were, and they're gone, they're extinct, and they're unknowable, you know, nameless, anonymous people. Whereas, you know, if you go into the 18th century documents, we have the names of the people who signed the deeds for Shutesbury right
Mhm.
here. There they are. There they are.
It's really
And
cool.
if you look at Lisa Brooks' books, she goes into, and also Marge Bruchac, both anthropologists who've written about Indigenous history in this Western Massachusetts. There's a lot of historical information about these people. These are historical figures, you know, information about their families, where they lived, what they did, what they said. All of this stuff is in the historical English record.
Huh.
So these are not unknowable people. They're just as knowable as any other 18th century person in colonial history. Which I find powerful and compelling.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted these names, just again, they're not unknowable.
That's great.
Not that I'm getting into it in any great depth, because I'm not going to recreate what some, you know, these books were about.
So
Just-
did Lisa think that it was okay not to have to, let's say, pass this by a tribal representative or something? Are we okay? I mean, because it is our document.
I did share it with, I have shared it.
Okay, good.
Well, did I? No, I shared the bylaw. I have not shared this one yet.
Okay.
That's right.
So this is you know, I think it's presumptuous of us to ask them to review this and give us
Okay.
feedback. I just feel like that's not their job to be our editors. And I think saying, here's this document, we would appreciate any feedback, but you know, we're just sharing it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't want to share it until I kind of got this information.
Sure.
I mean, one thing I don't say in this, maybe I should say it more clearly in the conclusions, is about their names and the idea of naming people. How powerful that is. I don't know why there's a space here. Oh, I guess those are different paragraphs. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to for this. I think it's more the facts that are helpful for people to know that we do have this record going back that far.
Yeah. Now, I have a question before let me go back to the table of contents. Excuse me, scrolling. I can't use a mouse because that means moving my arm. It's long. And I know that is a concern, that, you know, how much memory the documents take up, that you can't easily email it because it's so long.
Actually, Miriam, I might be able to convert it to PDF and get it much smaller. I can't really understand why it's so big.
Eventually, I was going to turn it into PDF.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be good. I think it would help. Yeah.
Do you think it would be less memory? I think the issue is the color photograph. Greg.
I think, oh yeah, definitely.
Greg,
Much smaller.
what
Yes,
do you?
that's very likely.
So I think that's going to be an issue. I mean, the one thing with a PDF is you can compress it into a zip.
Well, you can do that. You can press a Word document or a zip file too.
That's right.
But PDF, the JPEGs will be compressed. Yeah, it's definitely worth a try, and it's easy to do. I could do one just as a test.
Okay,
Okay,
we have to
good.
fix,
Yeah, yeah.
I can send this back to you, Greg.
Well, I've got that one. It'll do for the moment just to test to see how big it
Okay.
is in PDF.
I think I did try it and it was still like more than Gmail I could attach as a,
Really?
I mean, I don't know if that's a barrier. In terms of my thinking about the two long appendices is the National Register,
Yeah.
and that talks a great deal about traditional cultural properties.
Mm.
And also I've put in the chapter from the 2004 Shutesbury Master Plan on historic resources because it talks about both colonial history, but it also talks about archaeology. There's an archaeological report that I think says some things that are very helpful. And it was commissioned by the Historical Commission. So I felt like, okay, this is our document. We commissioned this report back in 2004. We should be referencing it rather than, because most people probably don't even realize there is a chapter in this 2004 document
Mm.
That was written by an archaeologist about Shutesbury archaeology. And the report, what I found compelling is the archaeologist says that there are presumed archaeological sites in Shutesbury. So, and she references some examples, including some things that would be ceremonial sites. So I feel like, you know, when people sort of say, well, no archaeologist would ever say that there's anything in Shutesbury, we commissioned a report back in 2004 that says otherwise. And I
Was
think
that,
I
was
feel like
that
that's-
Dina Denkozy?
yeah.
Yep.
Huh, cool. So if we can't get it down to, I don't know what's good for people. Isn't it like over 10,000 kilobytes right now or something, 10 megabytes?
I think it's 15 is
yeah.
standard.
Well, I know.
And this is about,
That's
25
high.
or 26.
Yeah. Even just for our website, if people want to download, maybe for
Yeah.
that, separate them to make it easier. Because I know when I was on the Concom and stuff, at least, and that was before broadband. So, you know, there were always issues and we had to divide our map section from our written sections and everything. Now, it may be easier, but it may still be difficult. Like for me and my old computer, I'm always worried about how much space I have left on the computer, not just the transmission. So when I get a new version, I delete the old versions because those are just way too big to hold on to. But at any rate, so I think it might help on that if we have to, if you can't compress it enough to, let's say, get down to 10, and otherwise to split it at least for our website so people can get to it and just clearly identify what those appendices are to make them interesting for people to want to click on, you know, and look at as well. And then second, at one point you had asked something about whether we should make a paper copy for the planning board members of the solar one. I'm just bringing it up here, but I think that might be a good idea, again, just to make sure that for those that are more comfortable with a paper copy, especially if it's long, that they won't be inhibited from wanting to look at it.
Yeah, I like, you know, I was thinking actually of our publishing in print bound copies also for the select board.
Yes.
Because I feel like, you know, they're also dealing with all of this.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah, you don't want barriers that are going to keep people from really exploring it. And some people like paper in hand.
So, you know, we do have money in our budget that we haven't spent for this year for this appropriation, and we could bind them, you know, take it to a copy center like Collective Copies.
Yeah.
And get it bound. And also I had reached out and had some communication with the Friends of the Shutesbury Historical Commission with Joan Hansen. And she said they might be willing to contribute some money toward the printing.
Oh, good.
I've just got it down to 12.5 megabytes, and I'm sure I can get it smaller.
Oh,
really?
Great. Fantastic.
That's fantastic. See, I think that's fine.
PDF? You did PDF?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's great.
So I am not finding it. If someone could email it to me again, I just have little parts of it. It's just not it. I can't find it. So,
Yeah, I don't think I got a copy of the final one either.
It was a
Okay.
link, Henry. Okay,
Yesterday.
let
Oh, it's a
let me-
link. Okay, okay,
It was a
okay.
link. It wasn't an attachment. So
Okay.
you
I
have to go
see
in the
it.
body of the email. I'm not logged into, let me see if I can. get
that's
in.
okay.
Don't worry
Not
about it.
right
But
now.
I'm not going to worry about it right
Don't worry
now.
about it.
So if you guys, I'm going to stop screen sharing. If I can stop, how do you stop? There we go. All right, we back to, we're off screen sharing now?
Yeah.
So Greg has already given me that cover, which I think I can insert into it. And then I think I can fix, Greg, I just have that one problem. Maybe I can fix it myself. One of the things that's sort of I'm struggling with is kind of the layout of the pictures, the illustrations, and the titles and the text wrapping around it. And it,
Yes, you're
a little
trying as much, within Word, you've got as much chance as I have because I don't use Word in that way. So I'm not really an expert in Word.
I think I can do it better than
Well,
I'm doing
you know
it.
how you can, one way you can do it is you can, I think it's like bring to front or something so that the picture doesn't
Right.
inhibit the language. There's a certain
No,
setting.
it's called wrap text. You
Well,
format how.
that's one. Wrap
okay.
text means that the text is going to wrap around it. But if you say bring to front, then your picture you can place it without it messing up the text.
Oh, okay. Well, what I think I might do, because is I can put the titles in a text box and then it'll wrap around the text boxes rather than every time if I reformat something on page 5, it moves the title of the text of the photo. I think I know how to do that. So I think I can do that. And then I'll insert Greg's great cover. And if you want to make a cover for the other document. So can we get a motion for this then, for this report?
Yes, I'll motion it. Move it.
You're moving what? You gotta say it.
That we moving it.
Prove it.
Someone move it to accept the report as it is.
Well, with the minor edits that we've been discussing.
Right, with the
formatting, the minor formatting edits that we've discussed.
Absolutely, yes. To accept the report as it is, exclusive of typos and editorial.
Yeah, I saw some periods missing at the end of paragraphs too.
You did?
Yeah, I'm a really good editor for like catching little things like that. If you want me to look over it, but in the one that you shared highlighted in yellow, there was a paragraph that had no period. I'm just saying that's what I saw. So
I'm just, hold on one second. Let me look at that.
Further down. Yeah.
No, there are periods at every paragraph.
Where did I see it? Maybe it was for somewhere else, but.
Okay, well, absolutely. I have an editing attachment to my Word, so it usually flags things, and people have gone over it several times. But but if you can do it, and you could give me some feedback, that'd be great. And I will, if it's minor stuff that isn't really changing major content, then I can, with everybody's permission, I'll just incorporate those edits.
So I just want to say, in terms of length, I think it shows like due diligence. I think it's really thorough and wonderful. And I completely laud all of your work on creating this document. And I just hope those who read it that might have some disagreements are going to take time to sit with it and allow it to sink in, because it looks like a really good report.
Thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful. So one question I do have so we need to vote on the motion, and then I have a question. So was there a second?
I second it.
Okay.
My first second.
All right.
So go down the list. Henry Geddes, aye.
Aye.
Say your name.
You should, Henry, it's better,
No.
Henry, it's easier for
Alright.
the secretary if you just mention everybody's name and
Yeah,
then.
All right, I'll do it then. Edsel Florinina,
Aye.
Greg Colton,
Yes, aye.
Miriam DeFell,
Aye.
Janice Stone.
hi.
So one of my questions is about honestly, I was thinking about like who should be on the title page.
I don't have to be. I'm not, at all worried about that. You do whatever you think is best.
Well, I don't have to be either. So the question is,
Oh.
I think it's either everybody's name or nobody's name. I'm not going to put my name on it by myself.
Okay.
Miriam.
So is
Well,
it,
yeah.
do you think it's going to be helpful that we have like our names? Do you think that it would be better just to have it by the historical commission?
Oh,
Good question.
maybe do the historical commission on the front page and somewhere on the inside, whether it's like inside cover or bottom of the title page or something, you could put, authors or
Contributors.
contributors, something
Contributors.
along that line.
Contributors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
acknowledging contributions from da 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 da.
Yeah, however you want to do
I
something.
could add a
like-
contribution page or an acknowledgement page. And how about just an acknowledgement page?
Yeah, and you did most of the work, Miriam. And this is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know, but anyway.
No, I think names are great. I mean, it tells, this is not, that it just didn't come out of air or meetings.
And degrees, yes, no, maybe.
Looks fine. I did notice that when I looked at it, but
The only reason to put degrees is if people are sort of saying, what are your
Yeah,
qualifications?
who are these people?
Who are these people and what credibility do they have?
It's legitimate. You earn the degrees, and that's that. It's fine to put your degrees there.
I think it's fine.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the bylaw. Let me
I'll-
first
I'll just say,
thing.
I just wanted to say that I just forwarded the link to the Indigenous report to Azelle at her old email because I didn't have the new one with me at the moment, and to Greg because he said he needed to see the full copy.
Okay.
So,
Okay, good.
I
no,
am trying
Thank you.
to.
yeah,
Okay, new share. I'm trying to share. I'm going to hang on one second. Solar bylaw. So first thing I'm going to share with you is I'm having a little bit of a problem with what I'm seeing here. Are you seeing anything?
Yep,
yes,
solid bylaw position paper.
part of
Okay,
it.
I'm
Executive
not-
summary.
See, I
The
can't see it because something is in the
Oh,
way.
no.
Hang on.
You got the executive summary up there.
I know, but okay, here, I've got these little bubbles popping up. Okay. So this is just a one page. I'll minimize it a little bit so you can see. This is a one page summary, Cliff Notes.
Good.
Summarizing the basics. Again, this would be something we could possibly put up on Nextdoor Shutesbury or distribute a little bit more widely if we don't want to send the whole document. If somebody doesn't want to read the whole document, then they would have this.
That's a good idea. I think it's nice to have the executive summary because some people are not going to read the whole thing.
Some
Yeah.
people are not going to read it.
Yep.
So, okay.
Does it make sense for an executive summary to say, see, specific areas of the larger document?
Well, I guess
to?
I felt like the table of contents would
Oh,
help
yeah.
guide people if they were
Yeah.
trying to find things.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
I guess I could put maybe this one paragraph, one sentence about the larger document. Maybe that should be like up higher in the first
Right.
paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just highlight that and I'll change it.
Okay.
later. Okay, so any comments or should we just vote on it?
Are we voting on just the executive summary?
Just the executive summary
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I move to approve the executive summary. Preservation statement.
For the solar bylaw.
Bylaw. the
Solar
bylaw.
bylaw, yeah.
Let me
I'll
see.
second that.
Where are we going? Solar bylaw position paper. There we go.
Okay,
Okay.
so Henriette is aye. Etzel Florina,
Aye.
Greg Colton,
Aye.
Miriam Defant,
Aye.
Janice Stone.
Aye. Great.
Okay, can everybody see the bylaw paper?
It's a little large so that
You can't see much of it.
I can
yeah.
see the picture. That looks like Eva's dog, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say that's Eva's dog, right? So, so here's the table of contents.
Okay.
Azelle, did you get a chance to look at this?
I didn't get a chance to look through it. No, I did open it and no, I haven't had a chance to read through it. It's been a little crazy on my nonprofit end.
Ah,
So I took out bulletin 38 out of the appendix because it was, and I put something that's only 3 pages long
ah,
here on
okay.
appendix F. And I'll just skip to that.
You
Okay.
could also,
Just-
Miriam, you could
Yeah.
also, just have a link to Bulletin 38 since it is online already.
Oh,
Well, it's referenced, and so in the end notes, there's a link to it.
Okay, great. Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
I'm pretty sure there is. Let me look if that's while we're talking about.
I'm a proponent of linking whenever something is mentioned, even if there's multiple links.
Well, you see, we're referencing it, and then I'm pretty sure it's in the end notes. Where did I go? Here, yeah, see right here. So it
But-
is referenced.
Okay, but they mean like a live link if that's
A
possible.
live
Yeah,
link.
that's what I mean. Whenever
Yeah.
you do,
Um,
it's so easy to do, and then it
no,
just
yeah, I can do
it-
that. I didn't do that, by the way, with it. That is going to add to the memory, I think, isn't that, Craig?
No,
Link
Besides the
outside-
document, if you have live links,
I
No.
don't think
it
so.
won't.
should not.
Okay, so I can go back through some of the end notes and just add links to them, live links.
Mhm.
I can
That
do
would
that.
be
Yeah.
great.
Okay, so that's an easy do. So any comments about the analysis? Because this is really, it's more of a, this is an analytical paper more than anything else. One
Mhm.
thing that we were not able to do is get any feedback from the Commission on Indian Affairs,
Okay.
despite trying.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
So I left that highlighted in, and nor did we get any feedback from any TIPO. So I did share this report with the Nipmuc and the Wampanoag tribes.
Good.
So
I
don't have-
thought the analysis was excellent. I mean, some of it was absolutely brilliant, especially on the unreasonable regulation.
Yeah.
The only thing I guess I was concerned about was, in terms of, I'd like to know what Michael DeCary thought about it from a planning board perspective, from a policy perspective. If this is, there's a lot of, it's a dense document. There's a lot there.
Yeah, so I think Michael liked it. He thought it
Yeah.
was great. And he thought that, again, the idea of reasonableness is is it possible for somebody to do it? Does it make sense? And are there alternative ways to achieve the same one goal? Which I understand folks may feel like discussing the mitigation plan.
Right.
There's discussion in the mitigation plan of alternatives that none of us may feel very comfortable with because they involve destroying sites.
Mhm.
That was precisely where I was gonna go, because you have, some categories there, I think there's at least 3, right? Or maybe 4.
Right, there's 3 categories of mitigation. One is avoidance, minimization, and then alternative mitigation.
Yeah. Did you come up with those, or is
No, I did not.
where,
That's why
yeah,
I kind of looked, I went through several locations and documents where from other 8 states where they talked about historical preservation and mitigation.
good.
And then I also looked at some documents on environmental mitigation.
Mhm.
Because the concept of environmental impact and mitigation is a general concept that is applied both to historical stuff, and also to like wetlands mitigation. And there's kind of 3 different categories. Even with wetlands, sometimes wetlands get destroyed and then developers are required to create new wetlands. Right, Janice?
Yep.
So that's alternative mitigation. We're not going to save this wetland. We're not going to minimize the impact on this wetland. The wetland's going, but the developer has to create a whole new wetland and do the make sure it's vegetated and everything. So you can't rebuild a ceremonial stone landscape. Sometimes with historical stuff, people move things.
Right.
Like houses get moved, historical houses, or so and so that's why there is some comment in there about not recommending moving indigenous stuff. But if we don't discuss this, somebody else is going to discuss it for us.
Right.
And it's going to look like we were cherry picking stuff. And it doesn't mean that the planning board has to approve an alternative mitigation. However, how would we feel? I'm just saying this in the abstract, but how would we feel if Coles came out and said, these stone structures on these solar projects need to get destroyed, but we're going to put into permanent preservation a whole bunch of others on other properties, and we're going to build a indigenous culture interpretive center.
A museum.
What?
A museum.
Well, no, or whatever, or we're going to give some land to the local indigenous tribes, or we're going to donate money to an indigenous nonprofit. I mean, would we say that's absolutely unacceptable if a tribe said, especially if a tribe said, that's good, we'll accept that.
Right.
Because they might say that. They might say, hey, that's a net win for us. Would we stand up and say, no, we object to that? I don't know that I would personally say that.
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's but I think, I'd have to see what the proposals are, but
I think it's reasonable to present that. Like you said, we should be trying to sound balanced, but making sure that people understand our perspective about the ceremonial stone landscapes. But trying to present not just a distorted picture, but the sort of the whole picture, and emphasize the things that we're especially concerned about. So I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Can't leave it out.
Could I go back a little bit to some commentary about mitigation?
Yeah.
Did anyone else in this group attend that noon
No.
on Wednesday?
Yeah, I did.
You did? Okay. And so I did too.
Was it good?
It was really good. Yeah. Yeah. I took a lot of notes, and I want to use some very, skillful presentations. They were short to fit into that time frame. But I think that in terms of, just this kind of offsetting idea of, oh, we'll just move the wetland, it's not as simple as that, because of the microbes in the soil that have built up over millennia. And you don't just go and create a wet spot and it's ready to go, up and ready. And especially, I think it's important to look at how that figures in the larger picture of climate change.
Yeah.
And how the whole idea of drawdown of the soil and the part of, it's not just trees that draw down that are carbon sinks, but it's also soil and ground cover, and new ground cover or some kind of like all grass or what. Well, like we
Doesn't do it.
know that doesn't do it.
No,
No, I just hear what, let me finish, please. The
Yeah.
only thing I want to say about it is I think that if that's in there, it needs to be up to date with current climate change science, that it can't just refer to some old three, oh, this is the third level of mitigation from the past that someone said, because it doesn't apply anymore to what we know.
But Azelle, this only deals with historical preservation. This report does not talk about the environmental and climate change impacts, because that's not really our purview. This report is only talking about the sections of the bylaw that deal with historical preservation.
What about, I get that, but what about the preservation of beauty for a community's life and enjoyment of what is culturally enjoyable, the maple trees that are tapped, the beauty of what's there, as opposed to raising an area and putting solar panels there. All of a sudden, what historically has been there isn't there anymore. So it's a mix. I'm saying, I guess I hear what you're saying, and so maybe that whole area about the climate change impact, I'm not sure where that needs to be, somewhere about cutting forest land, because I heard that loud and clear in that presentation, but also just in that terms of, like, don't let these groups off so easily.
Well, I wonder if that's really kind of the Conservation Commission's and the planning board's responsibility. There are the zoning bylaws do have what they call rural siting principles. And if you go into the zoning bylaws, and it's not the solar zoning, it's just general zoning. And I do mention that in this report, that there are these rural siting principles, and one of them is preserving the scenic rural character of Shutesbury. And so I think that the planning board has an obligation to consider those. I'm not sure that that's the Historical Commission's responsibility in this report to discuss, but I think that this template around analysis is something that the planning board could use for other sections of the bylaw, because if they're trying to decide if something is reasonable, again, using that analytical framework of, does it make sense? Is it proportional? I don't remember what the three principles were, and what is the cost analysis is, the cost benefit analysis. I guess that's here. Let me pull it up. These concepts, I think this framework could be useful in considering all of those things. But again, I'm not sure, I don't know what other people think for the Historical Commission's feedback.
think about what precisely?
Well, I'm concerned that if we start getting into talking about the more broadly kind of the environmental impacts, that people will just feel like we're getting out of our territory, and we're just being political. We're not actually talking about what our legal mandate is.
Yeah, I think I hear what Azelle is saying. It's just, I think our general consciousness is not quite there yet to make that argument. In other words, historical preservation has to do with these sentient beings. That includes trees and the animals who live in the forest. But it's just not part of the discourse yet.
Well, something needs to change.
Let me.
I know, but unfortunately, that's just how it is,
I know, yeah.
So I'm trying to look back to see what we talked about. So about
nature rights, the rights of nature, and the rights of
right,
on a par with humans, right?
Right.
Which is very hard to sell these days.
So one thing that's kind of cool is that, and I don't know if you guys caught this, that the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission issued this report just a month ago about solar siting principles and recommendations, and they used our solar bylaw as one of their model bylaws.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Oh,
Yes.
cool.
Yes, they had 3 bylaws that they, in their appendix, that they discuss, and one is ours. So I thought that was very cool.
Great.
So, yeah,
Could that be mentioned somewhere in any of these reports here?
I thought I did have it. Let
Did
me
you
look.
mention it? Okay, fine.
Let me just look. Pioneer.
No,
Yep,
I
I have it right here.
okay.
Yep, that they used us as an example.
Yeah, because I didn't remember reading that when I read it, or maybe I read it too quickly.
And then I have a couple of examples here of other towns that have historical preservation in their solar bylaws. None of them have it to the degree, and none of them include indigenous
Yeah.
sites. So so I think we're unique, but I think that's a very cool thing about us, that we're unique in that way.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, Belchertown is formulating their solar bylaw. I guess they could learn from ours.
Yeah.
Well, this may be an interesting test case too, won't it?
Okay. So the other question is looking at I don't know how many of you went through the general recommendations.
Yeah.
I did go through this with Michael DeCara because I wanted to make sure that these things were worded in a way that the planning board would understand.
Mm-hmm.
You just take a minute to
You want to take a look? And
yeah, just take
tell
a
me
minute to review.
tell me when to scroll.
Yep.
One thing I don't know if you catch this sentence, but maybe this needs to be in boldface because it's an important issue.
I did like that. I don't know if you need to bold it or whatever, but.
Well, this is the one about bringing a TIPO in.
Right.
The archaeologist, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, keep
not just could or should, but a very strong worded, it's our finding that our best way forward to clearly identify these sites would be bringing in the archaeologists, whatever, the TIPO from and maybe name it, but that's like a really strong part of this whole.
Let's make this the historical commission's strongest recommendation. Again, if we say too many shoulds and musts, it can be very alienating to the planning board, who has the ultimate authority. So I've tried to.
Well, I just think I'm not much for saying shoulds anyway in general, but to honor that there's been a lot of research done to create this document, and to honor that you have, it's the finding of the historical commission that the expertise of a TIPO would be the best in making these decisions.
Finds that that the expertise of a TIPO is necessary. For it's necessary for construction phase site monitoring.
Well, before that, right? We want them involved in identification of the sites. Isn't that what?
Yeah,
we
but this
started
is
out
for,
with?
yeah, but this is
Okay.
just, this is for the 53G.
Oh,
okay.
okay, yeah.
This is,
But I thought the 53G was also perhaps to be employed for the project review.
right,
Okay,
right, but the site, yes. So this,
And I think it's fine to put bold here and there. That's a statement it's a statement that this is a strong position.
yeah, so, the point here being that last time with Wheelock Track, they only hired an archaeologist.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
this is saying it's not a suitable substitute. Okay, so these are general provisions.
mhm,
We up above, as you know, we went through what I went the framework of what we thought the applicant should do before they submit the application, that the application should include this pedestrian phase 1 survey. And that we feel like a TIPO should be included at that stage. I think we make that argument. Now we're looking at like what the planning board should be doing.
mhm.
These are the
So is TIPO, is it defined for people who may not know what THPO means?
Yeah,
it's defined throughout the report.
Yes.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think I don't
Yeah,
think
I
we need to.
just didn't know whether early
Well,
on you defined
You
it.
know, just to, not to be too picky, but you could also say, rather than say necessary, you could say indispensable. Absolutely, absolutely necessary.
I like indispensable.
mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of says it all.
All right. So I scroll down.
Sure. And they actually issue an order of conditions, the planning board?
Yes.
Okay, and I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can condition the permit in all sorts of ways.
Uh-huh.
The conditions on the Wheelock Tract permit were a few pages long.
Okay. Just very one minor thing I noticed here. I think it should be in the third sentence, applicant or subcontract fail.
Which number are we looking at?
Number 5, the third sentence, when you start out with order of conditions, should either the applicant or a subcontractor, I think it's fail rather than fails, right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
I-
fail, right.
I think it's the
Thank you.
should, maybe it was something else before.
Okay, no, you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me save this. All right. So this is great. Tell me if you need me to scroll.
Applicants should at the very least again, that feels a little weak to me.
Which one are we
Where
on?
are you?
Well, number 6, I mean, I'm just kind of on that sentence. I guess I feel like all of this work, it's not the time to like walk on eggshell.
Well, at
Like,
the
at
very,
the very
I guess that language to me says necessary, but perhaps not sufficient. At the very least, they have to do this, but they might need to, because I go on to say other tribes may also be appropriate. So I'm not saying
Right.
only those, but I'm saying at a bare minimum.
Yeah,
Because, this is a pretty broad net. If you think all the state recognized tribes and all the federally recognized tribes
Yeah,
for the New England region, there's like 5 or 6 federal
right.
tribes.
Because the borders, they didn't recognize those borders. They moved.
Right. So
Yeah.
including New England. I mean, I didn't want to get into naming tribes because I think that could alienate the
Mhm.
tribes who
Yeah,
feel a little territorial. And I
Sure.
think that's presumptuous. Because the reality is that there are some tribes that are not in the New England region, such as the Stockbridge Munsee band of the Mohican tribe is based in Wisconsin, but historically they were in Western Massachusetts. And they do assert that this area is of interest to them. The problem is that they have not fallen on the same side in terms of ceremonial stone landscapes as some of the other federal tribes.
Right.
So they've
Because
been,
they were probably more transient depending on season. They might have been.
No, because they're a little bit more my understanding is that they're more friendly to developers.
Oh,
And they're, some tribes are looking for
Right.
contracts with developers.
got it.
But again, I don't know that. This is just something I've heard.
Yeah, I agree with the wording here. Must, it creates rhetorically, it's just too absolute. These are recommendations
Mhm.
to the planning board. Should implies that it gives that tone of, these are recommendations, you
Okay.
do with it what you will. This is our best estimate of what should be done.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that, because you say must, then it doesn't, it creates that sense of absolute. This is absolute. There's
Got
nothing
it.
beyond it. Just a little
Mhm.
communication thing there.
That's
Yeah.
good.
It's like
Okay.
levels of power, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's like we're talking to the poobah here, The
How do you spell poobah?
Poobah.
Yep.
Oh, right, there's an H. What is poobah from?
I have no idea.
Green Cuba.
Probably from Rudyard Kipling or
Well,
something.
either that or
I think you're right.
Gilbert and Sullivan,
I lost my report. Where to go?
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, because we
we're
are we are presenting this to the planning board, and we don't want to turn any members off by
Got
trying to be too pushy, but just trying to
Right.
express our
So
feelings.
if responses are provided by tribes, I am saying here the planning board should require, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in the end,
Mm.
That's
it's
another-
their authority, not
Okay.
ours,
I
right?
mean, I guess sometimes I think it's just, okay, it's all right to have a few shoulds. I've tried to tone it down.
Mhm.
Applicants should present documentation.
Yeah, that is kind of a iffy sentence, but
The other way, a woman I used to work with and had the conservation was an environmental lawyer, and she would be very careful in her shoulds and also shalls. That shalls are actually a little stronger than shoulds, but
Mhm.
again, I'm not sure what our
I don't
tone
think
should
we
be.
have the authority to.
No,
do
I don't think
shells
so
here.
either. Yeah, for the
If
planning board stuff.
In an order of condition, you can put a shall.
Yes, yeah.
so if responses are provided by tribes, that's if they respond, then the planning board,
Well, I can just say, documentation should be submitted to the plan. Well,
It's okay. I think it's okay as
I
it
think
is.
it's okay. I think it's okay.
We don't want to get too pushy.
yeah, I just don't even understand the sentence.
Oh,
It's like, I'm not sure what you're saying the planning board should do.
Well, then, let's just say the applicant should provide. Documentation reflecting their communication efforts.
I think that's good.
Oh, say before, meaning in advance of the conclusion
Mhm.
of the public hearing.
That's good.
So maybe instead of before, in advance of the conclusion. So you're talking about time
Yeah.
instead of before didn't give me that idea of time. But okay, yeah, I get it now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
that's a little clear.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else moving down? Number 8, maybe we should talk about.
Right. That's a key one,
Yeah.
because they've, disclaimed any responsibility based on subcontractors.
Yep.
Can you explain what this is trying to say then?
with the EPA stormwater permit, usually the applicant would not be the one applying for that permit. It would be the site contractor, the construction contractor. So usually what happens is applicant applies to the planning board, special permit is approved, then the applicant subcontracts to a construction company that then applies for the permit from the EPA. So if the applicant is saying, you know, it's not our responsibility, you know, it's the contractor's responsibility, you know, there needs to be some way of resolving that. One would be, okay, applicant, bring the contractor here to the meeting. Or you take responsibility for it and then come back and give us the documentation to show that you did that.
So is it kind of saying, so as the applicant needs to have followed this set of checkoff list?
Yes, or it needs to make sure that subcontractor does. That
But
somebody
all it says is that if the required consultation process could result in meaning project design, substantive change in the project design, meaning it might not be what they thought they were coming in for. Is that kind of what you're saying?
It means that one of the problems with the consultation taking place too late after the special permit is approved is that the contractor might have to come back to the drawing board and change the design and go back to the applicant because the consultation resulted in the need for maybe avoiding some ceremonial stone landscapes. So they might have to redesign the project.
So you're kind of saying, here's a hint that if you follow all this, this is what could probably happen is, but so why have that in there?
Because I want the planning board to understand that it's in everybody's best interest for this all to happen sooner rather than later.
So I think that needs to be said. That just, maybe it's the end of this, or maybe it's instead of that last, or integrated into that last sentence, that, you know, a thorough,
Okay, so
clearing of all of these, all of the prior.
Required consultation could result in a substantive, it is to the benefit of all parties to resolve any concerns arising, to resolve early
Prior to
any concerns arising out of the Section 106 process.
And that's all prior to being given the
Yeah, I think that's enough. I think it speaks that everybody understands what early resolution means.
well, I just want to, is that saying prior to being given the go-ahead?
Well, that would be probably what we would be hoping for, is that it would have been resolved before they approve the permit.
Why can't you just say it prior to approval of the permit?
It's the benefit of all parties to resolve early any concerns are, well, no, I'm getting confused here. So the planning board doesn't have any power over Section 106. So what I'm trying to make the point here is that if Section 106 comes into play, it could really jam everybody up, because it could mean that the planning board's permit is no longer viable and has to be altered. So that's kind of the point, is that I was trying to say, if you bring the subcontractor in, you require them to bring the subcontractor in so that these issues get resolved. And then you're compelling somebody to take responsibility for making sure that the Section 106 notifications happen. Because what happened last time with the Wheelock tract was the subcontractor never notified the EPA. So,
Okay.
so I feel like we've kind of lost that with the change I just made. I'm going to kind of go back, hold on. And let's take a look at what I said before. Is that making sense?
Mhm.
Oh, how do I?
Do you want the old wording?
No, I can go.
You have could result in a substantive change in project design.
That, let's say, section 106. There, I think that makes it clear that we're taught, the consultation we're talking about is the section 106. So there's these two parallel processes, what the planning board does and what section 106 might do. And I'm trying to make the point that it would be helpful to everybody and to the planning board, if they know in advance what section 106 is going to require.
Okay, and so they have to go through that. Is that true?
They have to, but what enforcement is there? That's why I'm suggesting that the planning board require the applicant to take responsibility for it.
Got it. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm like late in this whole
Yeah,
process.
no, I was getting a little confused, and so I think,
No, I appreciate, yeah, the
Yeah.
clarity.
okay. Can we move on?
Yep.
Anything here? Mitigation, it's kind of, there's a little bit of overlap and redundancy in all of this, but I mean, here we already said, if any reply that they've shown, this is about consultation. This one is their effort to reach the tribe.
Notification, right.
So this is a little different. This is again slightly different. I understand that the language is similar, but
Well, if you're just saying if a tribe expresses an interest, but that's not really talking about engaging a tribe to be a key consultant.
well, that's why we want them to show documentation of how it made good faith efforts to actually engage with them, consult with them.
So it's almost the tribe expressing an interest is in the latter part. The applicant, if you started out with the applicant should present documentation of how it made good faith efforts to consult with tribal government. I think that's strong enough. Not if they express like, they may or may not. Do you know what I'm saying? It's stronger to say the applicant should present documentation of how it made good faith efforts to consult with the tribal government.
Well, what happens if a tribe doesn't respond to their initial requests for notification?
It's okay. You're presenting documentation that it made good faith efforts to do that. So it's you're still using your should language, but it's not, it's kind of the if a tribe expresses it, that's like, oh, if they come and knock on our door. Well, they're not knocking, we need to go to them.
But they have to do that in the notifications requirements. They're supposed to send a written notification to all these tribes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if any of them respond, they have to do something. The bylaw doesn't explain what they need to do if they respond. So here is, I'm saying they need to show that they consulted with them. And obviously consultation is probably going to involve allowing site visits.
How about in response, or the applicant would provide documentation on in reference to tribal interest in the project?
Well, they have to do that in the that's what they're doing in number 6.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
What I could say here is that they showed a good faith effort to comply with any requests from the tribal government. Because I think that's a big issue, because what if a tribe says, well, we want to conduct a site visit?
And they say no.
And they say no. So we say this documentation should, give me a good word instead of should. A good faith effort, a good faith.
Oh, you said that already.
You already said that. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I was going to define it. A good faith effort.
Okay.
A good faith effort includes efforts to, to comply with tribal requests.
A good faith effort, you don't have to say efforts again. The good faith effort includes complying with tribal requests.
Well, they can't comply with, it's not reasonable to say that they comply with all tribal requests.
Okay, includes
Reasonable,
reasonably consideration
reasonable compliance.
with tribal, yeah.
Yeah.
Such as site visits.
Yeah, put that in there. Hello.
Okay,
Well, Houston.
all right, go ahead. So anything else you want to move on?
Move on.
Well, I guess we've already said that.
In a way.
So I don't know that we need to say it again.
I mean, you got it.
It's already there, I forgot. So let's. Okay. All right, moving on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then there's just this last one. That they need to make the mitigation measures enforceable. Now, one thing I don't really, general standards, they're supposed to comply with all laws. And I don't know if I say that.
You mean according to the planning boards?
According to the bylaw, they're
Uh-huh.
supposed to show that they're in compliance, so that we could say that they need to be, show that they're in compliance with section 106.
Yeah.
So that would be, because I don't think I say it here anywhere, do I?
Is that number 5? Consider finding.
Oh, yeah, I guess here. Yep. Okay. You're right. It's already there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, it's already there.
But what does it mean? Consider finding. Is that a full sentence?
Yeah, the planning board should consider finding.
Consider finding.
So I'm just trying to get away from.
If. Yeah, it's just not a full, it's not a grammatically correct sentence anyway, blah, blah. I'm too, the
Consider finding the special permit and ineligible based on section 810(3) of the bylaw, or place, so these are declarative statements, place enforcement mechanisms in the order of conditions should either, so I could organize, I could just put this, I can just reverse the order of it if that's better. Is that what you want? Say should either applicant or it failed to do its due diligence, consider.
Or considering that the finding of the special permit application, or if the finding that it's, I'm sorry, it just doesn't, given the way you've put everything else, it's almost like you've put a phrase with a colon and then just put partial. Like at the beginning, oh, general, should the planning board ... or I don't know. I'm sorry. It's just kind of jumps as not a full statement.
In the
So,
event, I mean, I can have a conditional clause in the event that either the applicant or subcontractor fail to do, it should be fails, to do its due diligence regarding project notifications, consider finding the,
Okay.
finding the application incomplete. I would say ineligible or incomplete, but it's based on this provision, or place enforcement mechanisms in the order of conditions.
So is the goal that if the special permit is found to be ineligible based on those sections, then is it kind of an if-then statement? Is that the point of this?
Well, I'm giving them two different options, either deny the permit or place enforcement mechanisms in the permit.
Right. So how can that be said very clearly? I just think it's so much incredible work done in this, that to be unclear when that's very clear to me what you just said, but it to me in reading this is not clear.
Okay,
It's
should,
kind of dances around it.
well, let me, what if I said, what if I just changed the order, Azelle, and said, should either of these two conditions occur,
Yeah,
either the applicant or the contractor fails to do its due diligence regarding project notifications in order to trigger section 106, consider enforcement mechanisms or find them ineligible based on not following the law.
yeah. I think that has to be very clearly laid out. because-
Does that seem clear to people, or do you feel like it's, could I hear what other people think?
Well, yeah,
I don't know. I don't care.
yeah.
I'm sitting out to some degree, letting you guys work it out.
If you both
Should.
can agree on that, that's
I mean, it
fine.
could go either way. I mean, yeah,
Well, I guess it's because it's under general recommendations that it is a recommendation. It's not just a, we hope you do this. It is that, but it's based on a clear stand. Fail to do,
Either fails to do its due diligence project for section.
no, it's should either fail to do. So the S is gone.
I think it's fails because it's not an and, it's singular. If it's
Either
applicant,
or.
if it's either or fails, that's singular, so it'd be fails.
Okay.
The subject is,
Okay. Yeah, okay.
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 Yeah, thank you. I think that says a lot, is a lot stronger.
All right, go ahead. So we moved on. I think we looked at all these, right? Okay, again, get back. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Whew.
And then everything else. Okay, so are we at a place where we feel like we can make a decision about this? But I appreciate
I
the
think so.
feedback about the conditions, because it is important.
Yeah,
You know,
like, wow, it's an incredible piece of work, really. It really is. And just from my writing of grants that are many, many pages, I totally get how you're in all the words, and it's
yeah.
intense. Being
Oh,
in
here's a question. There's a section here, tribal engagement.
yeah,
And what I talk about here is that we wrote this report, the introduction, the other document. There were some tribes that were interested in consulting in 2016. And we've made these efforts to reach out to some tribes here in 2021. And I couldn't figure out what to call this section. So that's what I've called it, tribal engagement first steps. I just wanted to see what people thought of that.
That sounds good.
yeah, I like it.
Okay.
yep.
All right. Yikes. All right. So here we are. So Greg, you will help do the graphic layout for the cover?
I've already sent it to you.
Or for this one, for this document?
I sent it to all of you about 10 minutes ago.
Oh,
thank
geez, you were doing
you.
it. So that's why you've been quiet. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't
Great
want to use
comment.
the same photograph, so that's great. Okay,
Well,
very good.
Yes, you will see it uses two photographs, but I grabbed one of the solar array as well. if it's appropriate.
No,
You what? What did you grab?
I grabbed an image of a solar array as well as the image.
Oh, right.
So that seems
Sweet.
appropriate.
Do you want to pull, okay, I'll look at it, but that's great. Very nice. I don't know if I can pull it up,
Yeah.
but
can you pull
anyway,
it up?
so let me see if I can do
It's
that.
just a PDF and you should be able to.
Let me see if I can get into my email. Which email are we talking about?
Something recent.
You know what, I'm not logged into my,
Ah,
I'm not logged in, so I can't pull it up.
okay.
But I will stop sharing. Maybe somebody else can pull it up. Henry, can you do that?
what are you looking for again?
A PDF I just sent about 10 minutes ago. It's the
Okay, let me check.
cover of the solar array document.
Yeah, hold on.
It takes
Good.
a really long time for me to load up Gmail.
You sent it to my historical.
I just responded to one of the emails. Let me just see.
I've got 3, so let me check.
Okay, I will go and just check where it was sent to.
Oh, I like it. Well, that's awesome.
Oh, good.
Of course, it looks like nice grass underneath the arrays, and that's not exactly what it ends up looking
Well,
like in
I
real
could
life.
look for one that looks a bit, I mean, more rural, I suppose.
One thing they presented in that talk on Wednesday was how much area is also cleared and dedicated so that maintenance crews can get in and out. So it's not just the footprint of the solar array, it's a much wider. The maps were pretty amazing that they shared about how much land and forest had been cleared. They showed parallel maps of forest before the solar arrays and then after, and all the surrounding clearing.
Yes,
Yeah, it's about 15 feet all around for
Yeah.
maintenance is what they
there
require.
were some aerial views of solar farms, so maybe I can find one that represents that.
No, I think that's, yeah, I would say something a picture that shows the big
picture.
yeah, the big land use.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good idea. But nice.
But
though.
this is really good, Greg. It's really great. Looks much better than whatever I could put together.
And then you said you were going to use a different stone grouping photo because that's the one on the Indigenous report,
Just
right?
let me know which one.
You know, it's a cool, it's one of the coolest pictures. So maybe we just keep it because it's so
I like that
impressive.
photo because it's definitely not colonial.
It's definitely not colonial. I think I agree.
Yeah,
It's
but it's
turtle.
also, it's not on one of the solar sites.
But none of them are, Janice.
okay.
We decided we didn't want to put any pictures from
Okay.
any Coles land. We wanted
Okay.
only use photographs because I feel like, again, I don't want to have an accusation that
Right.
who took the pictures and where they, I just didn't want to go there. I just felt like,
Yeah.
let's just, and we did get permission from the landowner to use that photograph.
Okay. I would just say that it's not representative of most of the stone groupings in town. It's really an exceptional piece. So, people might say, well, you don't have those on that property, and they don't, but, oh, okay, whatever.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why I had used something at the other one, which was kind of I didn't think the other photograph looked particularly colonial either.
Mhm.
I like what you've got there, Greg, for sure. I just got it.
Okay, that's fine. But yeah, I think it would be good to do more of an aerial view so you see the forest clearing on a solar. That would be good
I'll
too.
look into that. I mean, I probably can get that, I think.
Just
This
go
is
to
more like a Hadley picture.
yeah. There's a Hadley picture.
Right.
So one of the things I just want to share with you guys, talking about not Indigenous stuff, but talking about historical stuff, is that I did a kind of an investigation of the Mass Historical Commission's inventory of historic properties in Shutesbury, because around 2000 they did a survey of all the historical houses and buildings in Shutesbury.
Yeah.
And there are individual reports for each one.
Yeah.
And I looked at some of them on Leverett Road. I didn't go and look at all of them, but I looked at some on Leverett Road, and I saw that on there are some historical houses that are eligible for National Register nomination that are abutting the property for the Leverett Road solar array.
Mm.
And if you go into the individual reports, 2 or 3 of them mention those houses being part of a larger farm complex, a farm mill site in the forest interior behind the houses, that this was a part of a large tract owned by a historical settler family that had mills on the Roaring Brook,
It's good to know.
which means, you know, that site has particularly could have mills and other stone structures that would be eligible for the National Register as part of the larger tract of
Mm.
those houses,
Oh, cool.
like outbuildings. There, you know, that's again a
Foundations.
foundation. So again, sort of, if the argument being not just indigenous preservation, but there could be stone structures of that are eligible for NRHP that even the Mass Historical would agree to. And when I did talk with the deputy state archaeologist, Ed Bell, and I mentioned to him this idea about surveying mill sites in the forest interiors in Shutesbury, and he said, I think that's a great idea. He said it's not done, and it's true that all of those streams, all of the streams, see, it, you know, the regular streams in Shutesbury have old foundations of mill sites, and it would be very cool to map them and maybe try to figure out who owned them and what mills they belong to.
Hmm. I think we might get some ideas from Eva. Isn't she doing that? Or hasn't she done that in Leverett? I think she has. I'm not sure, but I know she did the stone walls, but I thought she was working on the mill sites too.
She might have, but again, you know, yeah. So I think, you know, when we're advocating for a intensive survey of stone structures on these properties, I think we need to point out that there may be a lot of settler colonial structures that are really worth protecting and identifying.
Yeah, good.
Anyway, that was just
Great.
that
Yeah.
was an aha I found. Of like,
Yeah,
oh wow, look
nice,
at
good.
this.
Well, and it appeals to a certain kind of thinking also within the community. Right. It does appeal to that too. So
Mhm. So can we vote on the solar report, or what, how do you want to call it? Recommendations? Are we ready to do that?
yay.
Yes.
Okay, so someone needs to, did we make that motion and all before? No, that was for just the summary. So we need a motion.
Move to approve solar bylaw document. Henry
Second.
Geddes. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, second.
Second that
Okay,
motion.
good.
Okay. Henry Geddes, aye. Etzel Florinino,
Aye.
Greg Colton,
Aye.
Miriam Defunt. Miriam Defunt. Oh, you're muted.
She's nodding.
Okay,
Aye.
okay.
Okay.
Janice Stone,
Aye,
approved.
with whatever minor changes we've just
Changes.
been discussing. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Do we have time to talk about the security policy?
Okay, can we just, we didn't actually decide on paper copies for things. Do you want to,
I'd like to see
Sorry.
paper copies. I could get, I can get get a quote information about printing, and
okay,
maybe for the next meeting on the 24th, we could make that
Okay.
decision.
okay, that would be good.
Okay.
Thanks.
So let me screen share one more thing. Maybe we don't have time. I don't know how people's energy right now to talk about.
10:30. It's 10:30, by the way.
Yes, I know, I've got to get going soon.
Let me try to. let me
Is this
try-
something that maybe we should get in place as soon as possible? Is that
Well,
part of it or not?
that's, let me, can you see
Okay.
it now? So what I reference in the bylaw paper is that, you know, we were gonna get the archaeological records from MHC. Because one of the problems that an applicant might bring up is, well, how are we possibly gonna know what's in the MHC archives? What I've been told is that a registered archaeologist can consult with MHC about what's in the archives. So the developer could hire an archaeologist to do that. But what I'm also saying in the bylaw report is that if we have access to those records, if they belong to us, then they can consult with us. Kind of removing one layer, one possible barrier.
Mm.
But in order to get them, we have to have a policy for how we're going to maintain confidential files. And we have to have a form that anybody who looks at the files has to sign. Those are the two components of the policy. I got this information from Elise McGoffin. So this is a security policy that I took from Northfield. And I amended it. We already have a locked storage cabinet. And nobody, you know, with restricted access because there's only a couple key holders. I have a key and Leslie Bracebridge has a key. I hate to take the keys, but there are cabinets in the storage closet that lock. So we could use a filing cabinet that we keep locked, and then the keys for that would be held by the chair and the secretary.
That seems good.
Yep, that seems fine.
And then there would have to be a notebook, a binder with these forms, and somebody would have to sign it and keep it in the storage. They would have to sign this agreement that they're gonna, if they look at these, that they're not going to disclose publicly the information.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the language, if you scroll up a little bit, the language seemed a little clunky there. I don't know.
Where?
Up, further up. It says key holders will not allow access to documents without the person requesting access being a member of the commission.
So what commissioners, being a commissioner,
Without being a member of
an authorized archaeologist or a consultant. I could being, how's that?
Okay, key holders, access, access to the documents will be permitted for the following,
Where are you?
Right.
or something to
Changing
that
it.
Where is it?
just instead of key holders, right? Access to the keys will be permitted,
Well, no, I mean,
or
or access to the documents.
access,
no, okay, okay, let me go back to this.
key access.
Before hold on. We, as the key holders, have to take responsibility for who gets in. So that's why it says we will not allow access.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
We're
and
not
that's-
giving the keys to these people, and we have to stay there while they're looking because we have to
Mhm.
verify that everything is locked up again. So it would mean somebody would make an appointment with us. We would have to go there physically and monitor what they're doing and then lock everything up again.
Okay, yeah, I guess I got a little confused with it. Will not allow access to the documents unless they meet these criteria.
Will only allow access
Unless
to
they meet these.
we'll only allow access. We'll only allow access to the following.
Well, or just leave it. Will only allow access with these conditions, within these conditions.
Okay, that reads a bit better. Well, okay.
with the following conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that reads a bit better, yeah. Just,
Okay. All right. So if this is approved by all of you, then we can I can draft a letter and have Henry sign it and then send it to the to Mass Historical requesting the records.
mhm.
It takes a while to get them, which is why I'm kind of eager to get this submitted.
Okay,
Can you get it all on one page, just, with a little smaller spacing
Yep,
or
yeah,
something like
I can
that?
fix that.
Margins, whatever?
Yep,
Okay.
I can fix
that
that.
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so got a motion?
Yeah, move to approve Shutesbury Historical Commission Security Policy and Confidentiality Form.
Seconded.
Okay, Henry Geddes, yay. Edsel Florinda,
Aye.
Greg Colton,
Aye, aye.
Miriam Defont,
Aye.
Janice Stone,
Aye.
approved.
Good.
So the other thing we can do at the next meeting is the archaeology policy.
Okay.
The point of the archaeology policy is that we put it on file with MHC. And if anybody applies for an archaeology permit in Shutesbury, they have to forward all the information to us and they have to consult with us. And we would be allowed site visits. So this would be if the developer hires an archaeological team and they go out and do this survey and they have to pull a permit, which they would have to do with MHC, we would be notified.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think there's something off with the alignment there. Jonathan K. Patton.
Yeah, I'm going to fix that, Henry.
Okay, yeah,
I understand that. I'm going to fix that.
got it.
So anyway, we'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
But that would be maybe at the next meeting, we can postpone that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good, sounds like a plan.
Can I ask, is this the regular meeting time, Fridays at 9?
No.
Okay, so
Just-
this was a special meeting time?
Yes.
Yes.
So guys, I'm just seeing in my inbox that Mary Lou gave some feedback
Oh.
suggesting that to develop, to capture the reader's attention and develop an interest, I would suggest that you write it on a grade school level.
Well, she has a point about communication. That's the general recommendation for communicating.
I don't know how you could do that here.
I don't see how we can do that and have in any way scholarly, historical.
It is a technical report. It's not.
It's a technical report.
Yeah.
The executive summary. I haven't looked at it from that point of view. I think it probably is more like that.
I'll tell you what I can do with the executive summary is, I don't know if you got, I can put it through Grammarly, which is this online editing program I have a subscription to, and it lets me adjust reading
Oh.
level. So I can adjust it. But
Oh.
again, I think our audience for these reports are town boards. It's
Sure.
primarily, and that's kind of important.
I think that's
Yeah.
a very good idea for the executive summary, though.
See how that works for executive summary.
I just don't
Yeah.
think that we can simplify everything down to a sixth
No.
grade level
No, I don't think so.
without having to define everything, like what is indigenous, what is mitigation mean, what is, we can't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty straightforward. If someone's sitting down and reading, it's not like there are terms that are totally out of spoken language.
Well, and again, this is for a specific audience, and the
Right.
general idea of writing for a 9-year-old is in advertising and marketing. That's absolutely true. but this is designed for a particular audience. It's not actually
Yeah.
designed for 90.
Yeah, we're addressing the planning board and probably the lawyers on the developer side, you know. People that,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
it
A
cannot,
lawyer speak.
yeah.
So when is the regular, do we have a regular day and time for the
The
historical?
well,
meetings?
we've been doing them on Wednesdays. We have a meeting. And actually, I wanted to clarify
That-
because whether we were meeting at 7 or 6, because for some reason I posted the meeting for 7 on
We had
this coming
changed-
Wednesday.
Remember, we changed it because of the anti-racism group that ends at 7.
Oh, that's right, because I'm in that group
Right.
too. Okay, all right, so it's 7 o'clock. Thank you, Azelle. So it is
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
But we got through a lot today, so that's
Yeah.
good.
So that's going to be 324 at 7. Okay.
So I'm assuming in the next few days that I can package these up with Greg's edits, graphics. Then we're going to have to decide how are we going to roll this out? How are we going to share this information? And obviously we'll be emailing it to the planning board and the select board and maybe the conservation commission, but are we also going to post it online, our website? Do we want to put information up on like social media about it? Maybe just a social media post saying we've put this stuff up on the town website. We
Yeah.
encourage people
Yeah.
to take a look. I think rather than, I don't want to get into posting it on Next or Shutesbury or anything
No,
like that.
no, I agree.
But we may want to say, you know, hey guys, you know, if you want to learn some things, go to this web.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there are people posting all these petitions. I know I saw Marina had posted another petition
Yeah.
to, you know, about the solar array. Now, let me just ask a kind of conflict of interest question. As a citizen of Shutesbury who's concerned, and her concern is more from the climate change point of view, is it okay for me to sign that petition? Because it's really more about climate change.
I mean, I think that you need to think about that in terms of, you know, I know I'm personally am not getting involved in sort of online advocacy, public advocacy, because I think it's important for me personally to remain neutral, particularly because I'm also on the Conservation Commission, but because we're going to be issuing some reports specifically about these applications when they come out. And I sort of feel like it is going to affect my credibility if I'm looking biased. Especially if I'm going to be having some input into, you know, public reports. So that's been my position. I don't know what other people think. I can't speak for what you should do.
Maybe ask the town clerk, or you can actually, they usually will send you to the Attorney General's or the Secretary of State, whichever office it is, just to ask specifically if it would be a conflict of interest. My concern is that it would appear that you're biased against solar because it's an anti-solar, pro-climate petition.
Right.
And I know that depending on what happens with these project locations, I might be in a butter on the Montague Carver Road one, so I may not be able to participate in some things because of that.
Yeah, I think it isn't a technical conflict of interest because you know, the definition of a conflict of interest is very narrow. It's around financial conflicts of interest, you know, corruption.
Yeah.
But it's the question about the appearance of bias. And if, you know, I know one of the things that happened with the Wheelock Tract was that when people started advocating for indigenous ceremonial stone landscapes, there were a lot of people who said, oh, you're just using that as a screen. You're really just anti-solar and you're using the Native American stuff. You don't genuinely care about that stuff. You know, you're being a hypocrite. And I don't want our efforts here on the Historical Commission to get lost or put aside or disregarded because people think we're not being genuine or sincere. That's my concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think, technically, every citizen has a right to speak their mind. It's just the way, I think just in situations like this, the idea that then your expression becomes weaponized.
That's what my concern is.
Yeah.
Especially because I know Mary
Comes
Lou's,
back at us.
yeah, Mary Lou's been very outspoken. I don't want the Historical Commission to get disregarded as being anti-solar.
Yeah.
That's my fear, is that people say, oh, look, there's just like a whole bunch of activists on the Historical Commission and they don't really care about history. They just care about, this one issue. Which is not true. It's not true about us.
Absolutely true.
It's absolutely not true.
No, yeah.
So
Well,
I think, but everybody has to make their own decisions.
Thanks.
Okay, I gotta run, actually.
Me
Okay.
too.
All right.
Good
So
to see you all.
we got to have
Should
a
we-
motion to close.
Motion.
Motion to close. Somebody second?
Seconded.
All right.
Maybe we can all just say
Aye.
aye.
Bye,
Ciao.
goodbye. See you
Okay.
later.
Thank you,
you.
everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.